Hello, hello! This will probably be my final New Orleans vid. I have covered it a bit here, and of course those who have watched my stream have seen me play it a lot. Now this game at first glance seems like it will be pretty easy. We have a OPG 3-man division, and they have brought some pretty damn strong ships. They have a Kutuzov, a Loyang, and a Tirpitz, which are of course three extremely strong premiums. And of course the synergy of having those three premiums together, with no doubt 19-point captains on them as well. So I'm expecting this to be a pretty easy and quick game thanks to this. And honestly, I don't have too high of an expectations of getting too much of an XP or rewards from this one. But I still, of course, I play it to my utmost. I use my concealment to ambush the Chapayev just before I slide behind the islands here, so I get undetected again. And of course, USN arcs are fairly lazy, so you can lob them over islands, and I try to get some citadel hits on the Pensacola. Sadly, I get mostly over penetrations, but I mean, as long as I can deal damage from cover, I'll take it, especially in the early stages of the game. If you're able to deal damage without taking any return damage, that is fantastic. Especially, as I said, these early stages are the hardest for cruisers. The reason early stages of any matches are the hardest for cruisers is because there's so many enemies that can devastate you, so many enemies that can punish you so hard. You can get shot from left and right, and I mean, I can get shot from the guys hiding behind A, I can get shot from the guys hiding behind C. Playing cruiser early game is easily the most challenging, and that's why I often, especially for new players, I recommend playing quite safe. Using either island cover like I'm doing here, or just keeping your distance, because it can be challenging. Like even experienced players can get caught off guard by some undetected battleship lobbing shells at you behind some island. You never saw them coming, they just suddenly pop up and you get wrecked. Here I'm detected. I don't want to push around this island yet because I want to get undetected first. I really want to shoot, but I want to get undetected first. The reason I want to get undetected is because they turn their guns away. You can see the New Mexico is turning his guns away, and no one is really aiming at me. And now I can check out what it was that actually spotted me. It was this Chapayev, so I take him as my priority target. He goes behind smoke, so I'm undetected again. This is something that I, of course, prioritize heavily in a stealthy cruiser like the New Orleans, trying to remain undetected while dealing as much damage as possible. It's not always that easy, but it is highly recommendable. A bit of a rough start here. We actually end up losing two ships, both the Mayhem and the Loyang. Dies very, very quickly, which is a bit surprising to me. And we do keep it even though, and I finally managed to punish the broadside of that enemy Chapayev by nailing two citadels on him. The Chapayev is of course quite a squishy cruiser, especially if it gives you broadside, and the New Orleans, as I said, I did make a previous video where I told you to embrace the USN AP, and that's very much what you should do in this ship, because the American AP is extremely damn strong. Chapayev is angling in though, which will make my AP fairly useless against him. I'm waiting to see if he's going to turn, because I have AP loaded and shooting at his nose isn't really that useful. I am using Steven Seagull, which is of course the captain that gives you faster expert loader, and I am running that perk to be able to quickly switch ammo type if needed. But I don't really feel like giving away my position, giving away my concealment for the sake of dealing a bit of HE damage on that guy's nose, especially since it's unlikely I will maintain my spotting of him. Instead, I'm gonna see if I can maybe help defend A, because, well, now we're down to what, 6 ships against 10? 7 ships against 10 actually. So this game is quickly slipping out of hand. I thought this was going to be an easy game thanks to the division we had, but clearly I thought quite wrong in that sense. And they are pushing in, the Bismarck is pushing into cap, and the Chapayev is also trying to reverse into position. I ignore the Bismarck of course, and I see if I can punish these Chapayevs. I shoot while I was still behind the island, so I actually remain undetected, which gives me a second chance to punish this closer Chapayev, who has no idea. He realizes he's spotted, he's stopping and reversing, but it's far too late for him. And well, by the time he sees me, he should be dead, which he is. That is of course the American AP, and that is one Chap I've dealt with. They do have another one though. He seems to be reversing all the way towards the island. Note that I have to turn hard left here because the Bismarck is about to pop around that island, and we need to angle against those shells. The New Orleans, just like many of the American cruisers, they don't really tank that well. The only really tanky part on these things is the broadside belt armor, and you wanna be able to eat as many shells as possible on that part of the ship. And if you're unable to do it, then just dodge, maintain your distance, get behind cover, whatever. You just don't want to be close. And especially, of course, since it's a Bismarck, I instantly create more distance because, well, his secondaries are a very real threat. And if you maintain this 12 km plus distance, his secondaries never really become an issue, and the only thing you have to worry about is his main guns, which are of course notoriously inaccurate for any German battleships. That's not to mean that you can underestimate him, but the New Orleans firing angles, you can see how excellent these firing angles are when kiting away. Do you see how sharply I'm able to angle while still maintaining all my guns on the target? I mean, look at the minimap, look at the bottom left to see just how angled I am. That is of course one of the major strengths of this New Orleans. Firing angles are fantastic. So I keep harassing this guy, I keep resetting the cap, forcing his repair, and my carrier is already sending his planes out for him. I managed to avoid and dodge most of his shells. The only thing he gets is some overpen damage, and I set another fire on him, and of course I keep resetting the cap. Now our carrier is sadly only tier 6, and the Bismarck, if his secondary spec, if he's a good secondary spec, he'll have both AFT and BFT, which means he should probably shred those planes, but I'm hoping he'd get at least 1 or 2 torps or bombs off, since then he can help me significantly in securing this cap. Or well, defending it. I keep resetting, I keep harassing, and as the Bismarck was forced to turn and dodge these torps, I keep closing the distance and just keep harassing him even further until he burns to death. We're now down to a 5 versus 7, so I managed to even the score a bit. That OPG division has now, I think, died entirely. They have no more members left at all, so the game becomes quite a bit harder here. Dunkirk is pushing in. Once again, I try to reset the cap since we need to maintain this cap. If we lose the caps, then it's so easy to lose some points because they no longer need to do anything except wait for us to push into them. But as long as we maintain this cap advantage, we kind of hold the cards in the sense that they have to push into us. You can see Steven Seagal in action. You saw how quickly I switched from HE to AP. And I see if I can punish this chopper. I'm not entirely certain what this dude is doing. I set the fire on the Dunkirk that he hasn't repaired. I'm constantly taking damage, so that's always good. I lost vision of the chopper sadly. I don't really know where he went. Shooting a few blind shots over there to see if I can maybe cause some damage to him. But since I can no longer see him, I'm not too confident about that. I shot down one of the planes, but that still leaves me spotted. Oh, Chapai pops up, but then I lose vision again. Dunkirk, he is giving enough broadside that the AP can actually be quite strong here. I am angling away though, because if he turns his guns, remember Dunkirk has very good turret traverse. If he turns his guns, he can punish me quite heavily. But broadside Dunkirk, well, you saw that 6k damage easily. Dunkirk is very thinly armored, especially if it's not angled. So of course you can easily do quite a lot of damage with AP. I angle away though, since the Chapai does pop up. I'm still not entirely certain what the hell this guy is doing. Is he AFK? Is he a bot? He is reversing towards the island. I mean, earlier he was playing like a normal player, but now his guns are pointed somewhere and he looks mostly like a bot, so it might have been a DC or something, I have no idea. But I will gladly take that and of course try to finish off the kill. Dunkirk giving me broadside, so I shoot a volley his way, but the Kutuzov does finish him off. Kutuzov of course feasts on ships like the Dunkirk that have no protection against HE or IFHE. Chapaev, this time he should be dead. I thought he would die earlier, but I guess I got a bit dispersed and trolled. And I do finish him off as well. So now we're down to a 4 versus 4, but because of defending the caps, both A and B, and the fact that the enemy team didn't really bother taking C, we have actually a pretty good points lead at this point. So we are able to maintain this advantage we have. I'm going to push into A, see if I can secure it, but more importantly, I want to get another angle on the New Mexico as well. If he gives me broadside, I will happily use AP on him. If he's angled like he is now, well, I can use the island cover to lob HE shells at him. I'm slowing down, I'm not in a hurry to push this cap. I rather deal damage to this New Mexico from cover for a bit longer. lost vision of him, hoping either the Kutuzov or the planes will spot him soon instead. Meanwhile, the Kutuzov is of course enjoying all these battleships pushing into him, and he's just farming them one by one. So we got a pretty good work going on here, whereas I'm defending AB and he's kind of slowing down the push coming through C, which is of course something that the Kutuzov is exceptionally good at. Battleships pushing into Kutuzov means it's very easy to land shells on them, and well, they just die one by one by one. And 2 fires on the New Mexico, that's probably a guaranteed damage con on him. I keep pushing in further, keep trying to keep resetting this cap. I don't want them to get it. And of course, I'd love to get another fire on this dude since I've already forced his repair. At the least though, this will make him a lot easier for our Kutuzov to kill, because well, the Kutuzov is of course a notorious fire starter. That's not to say that the New Orleans is a bad fire starter either, but I prefer using the AP on this ship because the AP is so very strong and usually pretty damn consistent. Pensacola looks like it's going down. It looks like the carrier is now trying to stop me, which is of course not really recommended. I mean, I've taken some damage, which has no doubt stripped some of my AA, but I'm running the AA duration increase module, so you can see I have a pretty, 48-second long AA, and of course I'm focusing down the torpedo bombers first and turning into them to make sure I take no torpedo bombs at all. Some bombs do get through, but that's peanuts compared to the damage the torpedo bombers can do, and I start focusing them after I've dealt with that. And I do manage to secure the cap. The New Mexico does get the B cap because no one reset him, which I feel is a bit slacky. Slacky, is that even a word? I feel like a bit slacking from them, but then again the Kutuzov barely survives with 900 health, so he's obviously been doing a lot of work on that flank. So it's my turn to push through and see if maybe I can harass a different angle and help him out a bit. Now the AA on the ship is pretty damn good. It's not amazing by any means, but you can both defend yourself and anyone near you without any issues. In fact, I've shot down midway planes, which are of course some of the tankiest tier 10 planes in the entire game, and I've shot down midway bombers and such things trying to go for me or my teammates in this thing. So defensive AA, absolutely very, very useful on it. And of course you want to get used to running AFT plus defensive AA, since you'll be running it on the Cleveland, the Pensacola. It's great, as I said, on the New Orleans. It's even better on the Baltimore, and it's even better on the Des Moines. So it's kind of like part of your natural captain build that you will be running as you level up this American cruiser line. Gonna see if I can maybe get an angle on the New Mexico. The New Mexico is quite afraid to push around at this Kutuzov, and I can't really blame him because Kutuzov is obviously sitting there with his torps ready to punish him if he tries to charge into him. I have AP loaded, of course. His guns, you see his guns are pointed the other way, so that's why I'm happily pushing in here. New Mexico does manage to dodge the torps. However, he does something, he manages to actually turn his entire ship around. I kind of underestimate these lower tier battleships. The lower tier battleships have excellent turning circles, especially the American ones. So I wasn't expecting him to be able to make this turn, but he was able to make a full 360-degree turn and then turn around and fight me. So this could look like a pretty damn bad situation, but you remember what I did tell you guys? The belt armor is very, very strong on this. So what we do is we angle and we bait him into shooting our belt armor. Look where his shells land, right on the belt, and we take 0 damage. We bounce all of his shells. So the New Orleans does have a very tanky belt. You just gotta make sure you bait people into firing at it. Once again, he gets 1 overpen on the superstructure, but his hits on the belt armor are all bounced. If you get full broadside, you'll obviously get citadel. If you go nose in, you'll probably get citadel as well. But angled like this, baiting them into shooting your angled belt armor, you can tank a surprising amount of damage. Like many people who watch this game thought I was going to die here. But once again, the belt armor is no joke. And the game finally ends, which was a pretty solid game. A game I honestly expected to be a complete steamroll, but then ended up having to be quite the effort. I think this was my last New Orleans game. before I moved on to the Baltimore. I have in fact unlocked the Baltimore now, so I'll of course continue this American Cruiser line commentary by moving on to the Baltimore next. Although if you guys want, I still have a bunch of New Orleans games I can feature, because I had quite a lot of fun playing the New Orleans, because I quite enjoy American Cruisers, even though they are not exactly new player friendly by any means. 18k XP, 14 plane shutdown for 4 kills, sadly no Kraken, I did get a cap, and 18 cap resets, so of course overall a very solid game. Looking at the team score, I topped the scoreboard with 3k base XP. The Kutuzov, who was farming all the battleships pushing in, he also gets a huge chunk of XP at 2.7, and he gets 6 kills as well. So the duo of me and the Kutuzov kind of killed 10 of their ships and managed to carry this game to victory, even after this rank 1 division we had on our team surprisingly died without killing anyone at all. Still though, overall quite a fun game, and looking at the detailed report, mostly AP damage, no surprise there, but there is a fair chunk, I would say like a bit more than 50k of HE damage being dealt. Not really the most radar focused game, since there was very little radar usage to be had, since there were so few DDs, but that's kind of the way the meta is kind of moving in this game. I feel like if it wasn't for the Yamamoto missions, we see less and less DDs every day. Hopefully that will change once some of those BB AP versus DD things get changed and playing a DD is a bit more enjoyable than it is right now. Overall though, quite a fun game, and if you look at credits and XP, we can see why I got so much XP is of course I ran the Hydra and Red Dragon special flags, and I ran the Sci-Fi Space camo plus the equal speed Charlie, so that combination gave me a nice chunk of XP. Sadly, I didn't have the daily win. If I had a good daily win on top of this, I could probably have easily made a 25k XP or something similar, since daily win gives you a huge bonus. But still, 18k XP for a single game, I'll happily take it. Very happily take it, in fact. And of course, Captain XP, which is something I value very highly. Anyway, next time I'll feature the American Cruisers. It will probably be the Baltimore, unless people really want me to feature some more New Orleans games. For example, I do have some games against tier 10s, in case you want that instead. Let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.